ChatGPT said, "They say water always finds a way, and I can tell you that's true because I learned it the hardest way possible. 15 years ago, I lost nearly everything I owned in a flash flood back in Arkansas. It's funny, you spend your life building up walls, stacking up memories, and then one wild summer night, the sky just opens up, 6 inches of rain in less than 2 hours, and that little drainage ditch behind my house, the one nobody ever worried about, just couldn't hold. The water crept into my basement, then surged through my living room, and I remember standing there knee-deep, holding my daughter's baby photo album above my head while the rest of our lives floated around me. We never fully recovered, not really, not in our wallets, not in our hearts. I haven't looked at dirt or a sloped driveway the same since. I study FEMA flood maps like they're novels. Every patch of soil is a story to me now. So years later, when I finally got out to Pine Hollow, settled into my so-called retirement home at the edge of the foothills, I wasn't just buying a house. I was buying topography, buying peace of mind. Most folks saw a craftsman home nestled among cedar trees, birdsong in the morning, wide skies. What I saw was a warning. The land sloped, water could rush off the hillside, pool right behind my fence. Not dangerous, yet, but enough for me to get to work before I'd even unpacked a single box. I dug a 30-foot trench, laid a 6-inch perforated pipe, wrapped it, packed it with gravel, and covered it up with soil and grass. To anyone else, it just looked like a low patch of lawn, but to me, it was insurance, quietly pulling runoff away from my foundation, letting the land breathe. Didn't mess with city pipes, didn't dump on my neighbors, just kept my basement dry. And for 5 years, it worked like a dream. My sump pump barely ever ran. Neighbors would complain about mulch floating down the driveway, but my place stayed solid. I didn't make a fuss, didn't brag, just minded my business. That all changed one spring morning, when I was out weeding the flower bed and Marlene from the HOA, visor and poodle in tow, walked by and spotted the slight dip in my lawn. "What's that trench for?" she asked, nose wrinkling like I'd buried toxic waste. I told her, "Just a storm drain to help with rain, all on my land." "Did you submit a request?" she pressed. "No need." I said, "It's my property, not a public project." She pursed her lips. "Well, that sort of modification typically requires approval. I'll bring it up with the board." And just like that, the fuse was lit. A week later. Email, certified letter, violation notice, all official, all citing obscure rules I swear weren't in my handbook. Unapproved alteration of drainage structure. Unauthorized landscaping modification. My hands shook with anger, not fear. This wasn't about safety, it was about control. I pulled out my laminated FEMA maps, my slope analysis, soil tests, even progress photos, printed it all, wrote a polite letter, and dropped it off myself. I wasn't picking a fight, just setting the record straight. It didn't matter. 2 weeks went by, and another letter came, colder this time. Remove the drainage structure within 10 days or face daily fines. 10 days to erase the only thing standing between my past and another disaster. I didn't sleep that night. All I saw were old memories, mud, ruined photos, insurance checks that never made us whole. I'd clawed my way back to stability, picked this land for a reason, and now someone with a color-coded binder wanted to take it away. I knew how HOAs worked. Yell, and you're a problem. Comply, and they walk all over you. So I did what I knew best, documented everything. I filmed the drain during a light rain, took photos, showed the line, printed out rainfall data, and cited the state law that said private, self-contained drains didn't need HOA approval. A week later, I was called to the board meeting, no longer Mr. Reynolds, just Lot 17A. The clubhouse reeked of Lysol and printer ink. The board perched behind folding tables. Clint, the president, looking like he'd weaponize a clipboard. They called my name, and I calmly explained my system, showed my documentation, even pointed to the law. "Our concern is precedent," Clint said. "If we let you do it, everyone will want to dig." I told them about the flood, what I lost, what I built. "You can vote against nature if you want," I said, "but nature doesn't care." They voted anyway. remove within 15 days. The clouds rolled in, heavy and low, and I felt the air tighten. Rain was coming, and this time, everyone would feel it. Still, I wasn't ready to go down without another try. I drafted a detailed letter, mapped out risk zones, attached rainfall data, and hand-delivered it to the HOA, then called the city to clarify my rights. The city engineer, Aiden, said what I'd hoped. HOAs can't override stormwater safety. If your warning is ignored and damage happens, that's on them. I got that in writing. 2 days later, HOA contractors showed up, clipboard, shovel, ready to dig. I stopped them at the gate, asked for their permit to alter stormwater flow. They backed off, but came back with Clint himself. Refusal to comply will result in fines, he threatened. I stood my ground. You're creating risk, not me. He shrugged. They tore out the drain that afternoon, ripped up the sod, shoveled out the gravel, tossed the pipe in a wheelbarrow. I watched from the porch, numb. The rain came 2 nights later. At first a gentle, steady downpour, then a real storm, heavier than forecast. By midnight, runoff from the north slope had nowhere to go. I walked the block, documenting with my flashlight. Clint's garage flooded, ornamental grass gone, his wife's Lexus floating in the hedge. Marlene stood barefoot in her yard, her lights and hydrangeas drifting away. "Are you happy now?" she screamed. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. Fire trucks rolled in, pumping out water, sandbags everywhere. A firefighter asked, "Any flooding here?" "Not since I built the trench," I told him. He shook his head. "Shame it's not there anymore." The next morning, the street was a river, people in rubber boots bailing out basements. Marlene found me by the overburdened city drain, face drawn. "Clint's house is gone. So is the Connollys, Simons." She looked defeated. "Do you still have the plans?" I nodded. "Would you show them to the city engineer?" I said, "Not for the HOA, for the families." Later, I sent everything to Aiden and the city. Soon the city was out in force, surveying, documenting, talking to neighbors. While the HOA board hid inside, Clint vanished. Marlene resigned. Neighbors, once silent, demanded answers. The mayor called a meeting. This was preventable, he said, not just mismanagement, negligence. He turned to me. "Will you help design a fix?" "I'll help, but only if we focus on education, not just engineering," I replied. The room applauded, not just for me, but for the change in thinking. People brought me coffee, tools, even helped replant my yard. Pine Hollow started to transform. The city designated it a storm-responsive neighborhood. We held workshops. Kids asked me to teach them how to build rain gardens. My new swale, a gentle curve framed by stone, planted with sedges, became the model for other blocks. Clint moved away. Marlene stayed to help rebuild trust. The HOA's clubhouse was renamed. Their motto changed from order through consistency to built to withstand. Sometimes justice isn't a gavel, it's a shovel. Now when the rain comes, nobody flinches. People prepare, not panic. My daughter visits, sees the land holding steady, and we both breathe easier. If you ask me what I'd want people to remember, it's this. Water doesn't care about rules or pride. It just is. And the only thing that keeps a community safe isn't a bylaw. It's listening to the people who know what it's like to watch everything they love float away. So, what do you think? Who should decide what's safe for a community? The people living through it, or the ones who just read the rulebook? I'd love to hear your take. Drop a comment, and let's talk about what real accountability looks like in your neighborhood.